Welcome back to NFL Draft Season Fantasy Pros. Today marks the end, part 8 of our 8-part series breaking down every division's team needs ahead of the 2025 NFL Draft. For today's episode, the ultimate last one we have here, breaking down the team needs for the AFC North, our final division. But before we get into it, if you want a chance to win a signed DeAndre Swift Bears jersey for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on any Fantasy Pros Dynasty podcast video, and that's it. Announcing a winner right here on the podcast. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and claim your prize. Let's not waste any more time. Part 8 is here. Let's break down the AFC North. Let's kick things off with the Cleveland Browns. The Browns were once viewed as very logical candidates to land Kirk Cousins this offseason as soon as his stalemate with the Atlanta Falcons reached its conclusion. We know that the Browns had to add more quarterbacks this offseason, even after acquiring former first-round pick Kenny Pickett. Pickett was told he'll have a chance to compete for the QB1 job regardless of the other quarterbacks added to the roster. But the veteran addition may not end up being Kirk Cousins after all, given that the Browns also signed Joe Flacco to a one-year deal that is highly incentive-driven. The contract can pay up to $13 million, more than $9 million of incentives in addition to the $4 million base salary. Even so, a rookie quarterback is expected to join this team before it's all said and done, with the Browns owner essentially closing the door on the Deshaun Watson era in Cleveland. It could be Colorado Shedeur Sanders at number 2 overall, or perhaps another quarterback in the draft at a later time, with I think this being the much more likely scenario, such as Alabama's Jalen Milroe, Louisville's Tyler Shuck, or Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. Given all that has come out of Browns camp recently, with owner Jimmy Haslam going as far as saying the team would not force a quarterback with its first overall pick, seems very unlikely Cleveland takes a quarterback second overall. Elsewhere on the roster, left tackle Jedrick Wills is still a free agent, although Tevin Jenkins was signed during free agency on a one-year deal. But Jenkins will join 3 additional interior offensive linemen starters hitting free agency in 2026. The Browns seem to have confidence in tackle DeJuan Jones, despite him suffering a season-ending injury in Week 11, but considering he has ended his first 2 seasons on injured reserve, the Browns should add more tackle depth. Oregon's Josh Connolly could be an option at the start of round 2. Running back Nick Chubb remains unsigned, putting running back atop the needs list. The 2 running backs under contract are also on expiring deals. A logical day 2 replacement could be Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins. Later in the draft, another running back target could include Arizona State's running back Cam Scatabo. An edge rusher would have been a bigger focal point to address if Myles Garrett had been traded, although Garrett won't be traded after he signed a monster 4-year deal worth $160 million, which at the time made him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The way the betting markets are leaning, Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has a chance to join Garrett in Cleveland. However, I think depth-wise, interior defensive tackle is a big need in the long term. They added Malik Collins on a 2-year deal, but last year's second-round pick Mike Hall will take time to return from an injury. Shelby Harris is also 34 and a half years old and is in the final year of his deal. Some draft targets include Tennessee defensive tackle Omar Norman-Lott and Kentucky defensive tackle Deion Walker. Outside of Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, Browns don't have a ton of depth at wide receiver. This is where Colorado's Travis Hunter enters the conversation as the current betting favorite to be the second overall pick in the draft by Cleveland. The Browns view him more as a wide receiver who would moonlight as a defensive back. Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond, Maryland wide receiver Ty Felton could be viable number 3 options as well. In addition to their normal picks in rounds 1 and 2, the Browns also have 2 third-round picks. Cleveland also does have some depth concerns at cornerback with guys on expiring contracts. Just another reason why Travis Hunter makes a lot of sense for them at number 2 overall. Note that GM Andrew Berry has a strong track record of drafting offensive linemen, wide receivers, and edge prospects with premium draft capital. Next up, Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati had its hands filled trying to re-sign all of its offensive free agents this offseason, but to their credit, they got it done. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, they're all coming back. But what does that mean for the draft? They need defense. Sam Hubbard has retired, Sheldon Rankins was released, and Trey Hendrickson's status remains up in the air as he either wants a long-term deal or to be traded. The defensive needs are at all 3 levels. I do think the defensive line is the most prominent and immediate need. 2023 first-rounder Myles Murphy has yet to live up to his draft pedigree. The Bengals drafted defensive tackles Chris Jenkins Jr. McKinley Jackson last year, so they might be banking on some massive sophomore leaps to go along with bringing back some older veterans such as BJ Hill, Joseph Asai from last year. They did sign TJ Slayton from the Packers at defensive tackle. Upgrades in the form of draft picks could be Tennessee's James Pierce Jr., Ohio State's Jack Sawyer, Marshall's Mike Green, Texas A&M Nick Scorton, or Shamar Stewart, Georgia edge Mikal Williams, Ole Miss defensive tackle Walter Nolan, and Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander. The Bengals are favored in the betting market to draft a defensive line/edge prospect with their first pick. However, I also think cornerback might be in play, so I don't hate those odds at 3-1 because cornerback can't be ignored. Given that they have 2 starters in the last years of their contracts, slot cornerback Mike Hilton is also a free agent. They signed Marco Wilson on day 2 of free agency, but it's a minimal contract. They should look very closely at Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos or potentially Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Hairston. Another interior offensive lineman would also make sense, given that Lucas Patrick, Ted Karras will be free agents 2026. Georgia center Jared Wilson could add some interior depth along with Arizona's Jonah Savania. Although, they did re-sign guard Cody Ford to a 2-year deal. Linebacker Jermaine Pratt is in the last year of his deal, along with safety Geno Stone, putting those positions as lower priority needs, especially given neither player played particularly well last year. Georgia safety Malachi Starks or South Carolina safety Nick Emenwari are nice options in the NFL draft. At running back, there's Chase Brown and not much else. Zach Moss is in the roster still, but he's coming off a season-ending neck injury. Khalil Herbert is now with the Colts after a midseason trade, leaving Brown in a massive void of depth in my opinion. Although they did bring in former Bengals running back Samaje Perine after his 1-year stint with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think Chase Brown's season is a full go. Because if the Bengals decide it's just Brown and Perine with another day 3 running back, Chase Brown is going to be very productive. And that's the direction I think that they'll ultimately go in, given all the dire needs they have defensively. Head coach Zach Taylor recently spoke about how they already have a strong 1-2 punch between Chase Brown and Samaje Perine. Still, some running backs that might consider later in the draft include Arizona's Cam Scatterbo, Virginia Tech's Vishal Tootin, and Iowa State's Caleb Johnson. They also met with Ohio State running back Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Before I get to my next 2 teams, we have to talk about the Fantasy Pros NFL Draft live stream. Watch the first round of the NFL Draft live stream with our experts break it down every single pick. Get instant fantasy reactions and team fits from Joey P, Pat Fitzmaurice, Derek Brown, the King of Bros, D-Bro, and others as the draft unfolds. Coverage starts Thursday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel at youtube.com/fantasypros. Now, let's get back to the shows with the remaining AFC North teams. Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers wanted Justin Fields to be their quarterback in 2025. This is something I felt really strongly about during the start of free agency and this offseason. But alas, he's a New York Jet. And all the Steelers have done thus far is sign Mason Rudolph to a 2-year contract worth $8 million, reuniting the two parties after the quarterback's 1-year stint with the Tennessee Titans. Rudolph showed out, though, to his credit, the final portion of the 2023 season for Pittsburgh, going 3-1 before getting bounced in the postseason against the Buffalo Bills. He's not the last addition to the quarterback room, though, as Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh seems very much a possibility, just a matter of when the former Jets quarterback decides to show up. Knowing Rodgers, this will likely drag out. Now, most teams would be mostly overwhelmed by not having a concrete quarterback this close to the NFL draft in the offseason, but this just seems like the norm for a Mike Tomlin-led squad. No matter what, they're going to win at least 8 to 9 games and finish with a winning record. It's just the Tomlin way. And it's going to come in the form of a team led by a combination of Rudolph and / Rodgers with a rookie quarterback to be named later, such as Colorado's Shedeur Sanders, Ole Miss's Jackson Dart, Louisville's Tyler Shuck, Alabama's Jalen Milroe, Ohio State's Will Howard, or Texas's quarterback Quinn Ewers. The Steelers seem to like Milroe a lot, though, and I think he would be a great addition. Play him a quarterback, put him in some running back packages. Either way, I think it would be a nice fit in Arthur Smith's offense. Could he be in play at 21st overall? We shall see. But whispers from the NFL Combine claim that the Pittsburgh Steelers will be looking more at the trenches with the 21st overall pick. That being said, they're also looking to add more wide receivers, and that comes from a report from Penn Live's Nick Farabaugh, in addition to the defensive line in the draft. Now, this is a less prominent of a need after the team acquired DK Metcalf, so also more difficult for them to acquire more wide receivers without their second-round pick that they used to acquire DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks. Because the remaining wide receiver depth behind Metcalf and George Pickens is slim pickings. And I'm not convinced that Pickens won't be moved in a trade during the NFL draft before it's all said and done. Although, with each passing day, it does seem less likely a team will fork over a worthwhile deal for a rental player given its Pickens last year of his contract. Still, I do believe the Steel Curtain could consider wide receivers such as Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka, Missouri's Luther Burden, Ole Miss's Trey Harris, Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, Iowa State's Jaden Higgins or Jalen Knoll, TCU's Savion Williams, or Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton. Defensively, Pittsburgh has to come to grips with reality that Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt won't be around forever and could be gone sooner than we think. Larry Ogunjobi is gone. Defensive tackle is a dire need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Texas' defensive tackle Alfred Collins, Michigan's Kenneth Grant, Florida State's Joshua Farmer, SMU's Elijah Roberts, and Oregon's Derek Harmon fit the mold for the Steel Curtain, plugging up the defensive interior. The Steelers are currently betting favorites to go D-line edge with the first pick, followed closely by quarterback for obvious reasons. Across the offensive line, right guard James Daniels is gone, with Isaac Sayamalu hitting free agency next season. They did make some depth signings with Max Sharpe and Calvin Anderson, lessening the immediate need for offensive line bodies. The Steelers will, however, need another running back to pair with Jaylen Warren. A veteran addition to the backfield came in the form of Kenneth Gainwell, who is with the Eagles for the last 4 seasons. But the team believes that Warren can still be a 3-down back, so the amount of capital they invest in the backfield might not be as much as you think. However, Warren is only on a 1-year deal, as is Gainwell. The Steelers have also been doing extensive work on this year's running back class, but they don't have a second-round pick. That's the reality. So unless the move is Pickens for another second-rounder, I'd presume they are hoping to find value at the position from round 3 onward. Luckily, it's a great class for that exact reason. Texas running back Jaden Blue, Kansas State running back DJ Giddens, Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon, Ohio State's Travion Henderson, or Quinshon Judkins, Tennessee's Dylan Sampson, Oregon's Jordan James, Arizona's Cam Scatterbo, Iowa's Caleb Johnson, and Virginia Tech's Bashal Tutin are all potential options. I know Yahoo's Charles Robinson believes the team could take Judkins as high as 21st overall, but I also think Travion Henderson is in play there as well. That comes from Penn Live's Nick Farborough. Again, he thinks that Henderson is on the board as an option at pick number 21. When you look at Henderson, he checks off a lot of boxes in terms of meetings with the coaches for the Pittsburgh Steelers, along with private workouts. Henderson, along with Jaden Blue, Matthew Golden, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, Savion Williams, and Nick Emenwari all fit the criteria of prospects the Steelers have had combine formal meetings with, had Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan present for a pro day, in addition to a top 30 visit. Farba also points out the Steelers are all over the board with their pre-draft visits, hosting first-rounders at wide receiver, safety, defensive tackle/edge, quarterback, and running back. What are they going to do? We can't be sure. The Steelers made some veteran depth signings in their secondary this offseason as well, while also adding safety Juwan Thornhill. However, you can still never have too many guys who can cover in a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Also, it remains to be seen how much Darius Slay has left in the tank at 35 years old on a 1-year deal. Don't rule out any cornerback prospects either for Pittsburgh at 21, such as Texas' Jadal Barron or Notre Dame's Benjamin Morrison. Wrapping things up in the AFC North, the black and blue division with the Baltimore Ravens. At the start of the offseason, it was very possible that the Baltimore Ravens were going to lose offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley to the highest bidder during free agency, but they didn't let him hit the open market. Stanley signed a 3-year, $60 million contract extension on March 8th before free agency even kicked off. Ben Cleveland also returned to the Ravens on a 1-year deal. Still, Baltimore wasn't without its losses. Guard Patrick Mekari signed with the Jags, therefore making interior offensive line still a need for this team. BYU's Caleb Etienne, Purdue's Marcus Bowe, and Oregon's Josh Connerly are targets on the table for the Ravens. I recently spoke with Fantasy Pros' own Ravens fan and expert, Ryan Wormley, and he convinced me that the interior offensive line is still a top need for this roster. This goes slightly against the betting markets, with defensive line/edge the slight favorite for the Ravens to go with their first pick in the draft. In the secondary, quarterbacks Brandon Stevens, Tre'Davious White, and Arthur Mallett are all gone. Baltimore only has 5 cornerbacks on its roster currently, with a late free agent signing by acquiring Chidobe Awuzie. The Ravens GM confirmed that cornerbacks are always a priority need during his pre-draft presser. Now, safety also might need another body. Marcus Williams was released. Darius Washington is a good third safety, but I don't think he'll prevent them from adding more bodies to the position. Keep an eye on Notre Dame's Xavier Watts for the Ravens. In the later rounds, look at safeties such as Virginia's Jonas Sanker, Penn State's Jalen Reed, or Oklahoma's Billy Bowman. The Ravens GM, Eric DeCosta, confirmed that one of the 11 picks they have will be used on a safety and a cornerback. Thanks for narrowing things down for us, Eric. Improving the back end of the defense, which struggled immensely in the first half of last season, is a priority for this team. The defense also lacked consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks, so an edge rusher in a great draft class is a must-have addition. Odafe Oweh and David Ojabo are set to be free agents at the end of the season. Kyle Van Noy led the team with 14 sacks last season, but will be 35 years old. And Michael Pierce retired. Texas A&M Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton are both options, along with UCLA edge rusher Oluwafemi Oladejo. On the interior, Ohio State's Tyleik Williams also fits the mold for the Baltimore Ravens. The talks of the Ravens' Mark Andrews' eventual splitting seems to have some legs, given it's the last year of the tight ends deal. All three of the Baltimore tight ends are in the final year of their contracts. When DeCosta was recently asked about Andrews' future with the Ravens, he said, "He's a great player, and we're in the business of keeping as many great players as we can. So there's always a lot of unpredictability with the draft." LSU's Mason Taylor could be a fit in round 2, although he might have a chance to sneak into the first round given recent buzz for his first round potential. Lastly, I must mention this, but kicker is a need for this team, because I'm guessing the Justin Tucker era might be over in Baltimore. Ole Miss's Caden Davis is viewed as the consensus top kicker by many in this year's draft, but Ryan Fitzpatrick from FSU will also deserve consideration given the Ravens have shown a lot of interest in him during the pre-draft process. To briefly recap, the AFC North team needs Cleveland Browns, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, and defensive tackle. Cincinnati Bengals, edge, cornerback, defensive tackle, interior offensive line, and running back. Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback, defensive line, quarterback, running back, and offensive line. Last but not least, the Baltimore Ravens, interior offensive line, edge, defensive tackle, cornerback/safety, tight end, and kicker. That's going to tie a bow on the team needs for the AFC North and tie a bow on this series. If you enjoyed this video and this series, please go check out the other videos, give this video a like, subscribe, and share it with all your friends. And let me know in the comments, did you guys enjoy these team needs videos? I really want to know, get your feedback so we can improve moving forward heading into next season. But also, before you go, get instant fantasy reactions and team fits from Joey P, Pat Fitzmaurice, Derek Brown, and others for this 2025 NFL draft, because we are covering it live with a live NFL draft stream with our experts breaking down every single pick. Coverage starts on Thursday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel at youtube.com/fantasypros. Don't miss it.